The moment Helena Ellis saw the $100 bill lying on the table, she thought someone had made a mistake. It was 2 in the morning at the diner, and her feet felt like they were made of lead. She had already worked her shift at the grocery store from 6 to noon, spent the afternoon cleaning houses for Mrs. Patterson and her sister, and now she was 5 hours into her overnight waitressing shift at Mel's diner. Her daughter Sophie was asleep at her mother's house, probably curled up with that stuffed rabbit she refused to let go of, and Helena wouldn't see her until tomorrow afternoon when she finally got a few hours to herself. She picked up the bill carefully, looking around the nearly empty diner. The man who had been sitting in booth 7 was gone. He had been quiet, ordering just coffee and a slice of apple pie, barely looking up from his phone. Tall, dark hair, expensive watch that caught the fluorescent lights. She had noticed the watch because it seemed out of place in a dive like Mel's at this hour. "Hey, Mel," she called to her boss, who was wiping down the counter. "The guy in booth 7 left this. Think he meant to leave a 20. Mel walked over, his considerable belly arriving before the rest of him. He squinted at the bill. "Looks like 100 to me." "I know, but his bill was only $8. Nobody tips that much. Maybe he's drunk." "He only had coffee," Mel shrugged. "Maybe he's just rich and generous." "Either way, he's gone now. Consider it your lucky night, Helena." She folded the bill and tucked it into her apron pocket, but guilt gnawed at her. $100 was more than she made in tips all week. It was groceries. It was half the electric bill. It was Sophie's school supplies she had been putting off buying. But it felt wrong. When her shift ended at 6, she walked home through streets just beginning to wake up. The autumn air bit at her cheeks, and she pulled her thin jacket tighter. Her apartment was a 4th-floor walk-up in a building that had seen better decades, but it was hers and Sophie's, and she kept it clean and warm. Her mother was already up, making coffee in Helena's tiny kitchen. Carol Ellis looked tired too, but she smiled when Helena walked in. "Long night." "They're all long." Helena kicked off her shoes and felt immediate relief. "How was Sophie?" "Perfect, as always. We read 3 books before bed. She's still asleep." Helena walked to the small bedroom she shared with her daughter and stood in the doorway, watching Sophie's chest rise and fall. 6 years old, with Helena's dark hair and her father's green eyes. Not that David was around to see her grow. He had left when Helena was pregnant, deciding fatherhood wasn't part of his plan. Helena had decided she didn't need him anyway. She showered quickly and fell into bed, the $100 bill still weighing on her mind. 3 hours later, Sophie jumped on the bed. "Mama!" "Grandma made pancakes," Helena groaned but pulled her daughter close, breathing in the scent of her strawberry shampoo. "Good morning, baby." They ate breakfast together, Sophie chattering about a drawing she wanted to make and a girl at school who had a new backpack. Helena listened, soaking in these moments. By noon, she had to be at the grocery store again. That evening, she was back at Mel's diner for another overnight shift. The exhaustion was bone deep now, a constant companion she had learned to ignore. She poured coffee, took orders, smiled at customers who sometimes smiled back and sometimes didn't. At 1:30 in the morning, the door chimed, and the man from last night walked in. Helena's heart jumped. She could return the money, explain it was too much. He slid into the same booth, booth 7, and she grabbed a menu and walked over. "Good evening," she said, then realized it was technically morning. "Coffee, please." He looked up at her, and she noticed his eyes were a striking gray, like storm clouds. He was probably in his early 30s with a strong jaw and the kind of face that belonged in a cologne ad. "And the apple pie, if you still have some." "Coming right up." She hesitated. "Sir, about last night, was something wrong?" "No, I just think you might have left too much. Your bill was $8 and you left. I know what I left." His voice was firm but not unkind. It was intentional. That's very generous, but please accept it. You looked like you could use it. Heat crept up her neck. She didn't know if she was embarrassed or offended. I appreciate it, but I don't need charity. It wasn't charity, it was a tip for good service. He glanced at his phone, clearly ending the conversation. The coffee. She walked away, face burning. Who did he think he was? She brought him his coffee and pie, set them down without a word, and avoided booth 7 for the rest of his visit. When he left, she found another $100 bill under his empty plate. This time she ran outside, the cool air hitting her like a slap. He was walking down the street toward a black car that probably cost more than she made in 5 years. Hey, wait, he turned, surprise crossing his features. She thrust the bill toward him. I can't accept this. Why not? Because I didn't do anything to earn it. You're just some guy who comes in here and orders pie. I don't need your pity. His expression hardened slightly. It's not pity. Then what is it? He was quiet for a moment, studying her face. Consider it evening the scales. I have more money than I need, and you clearly work hard. What's wrong with that? Everything. You don't know me. You don't know my life. I know you work yourself to exhaustion. I know you have a daughter because you mentioned needing to get school supplies when you were talking to the other waitress. I know you take care of your mother because she calls you every night at 3 to check on you. He paused. I pay attention. Helena felt exposed, like he had peeled back her skin to see the tired, desperate woman underneath. That doesn't give you the right. Keep the money. Don't keep it. I don't care. He turned back toward his car. But I'll be back tomorrow. He drove away, and Helena stood on the empty street, holding $200 and feeling more confused than she had in years. She kept the money, paid the electric bill, bought Sophie new shoes and a winter coat, restocked the nearly empty pantry. For the first time in months, she breathed a little easier. The next night he came back. Same booth, same order. This time she didn't argue when he left another 100. Or the night after that, or the night after that. By the end of the week, Mel was watching the whole thing with amused interest. You got yourself a regular admirer. He's just some rich guy with money to burn. Handsome too. I haven't noticed. Liar. Mel laughed, his belly shaking. You notice everything, Helena. It's what makes you good at this job. The truth was she had noticed. Noticed how he always thanked her quietly. Noticed how he never talked on his phone when she was taking his order, giving her his full attention. Noticed how his eyes followed her sometimes when she moved around the diner. On the 8th night, he spoke beyond his usual order. What's your name? She paused, coffee pot in hand. Helena. I'm Theodore, Theodore Rains. The name tugged at something in her memory, but she was too tired to place it. Nice to meet you, Theodore. Theo, please. Okay, Theo. The name felt strange in her mouth, intimate somehow. Why do you keep coming here? Good pie. There are better pies in better places. He smiled, and it transformed his face completely. But not better company. She felt her cheeks warm and hated herself for it. I should get back to work. Wait. He reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope. Before you say no, just listen. I own a property management company. One of my buildings has a vacant apartment, 2-bedroom, much nicer than where you're living now. The tenant moved out last month and it's just sitting empty. You could move in, no deposit required, rent at half the usual rate. Helena stepped back. No. Helena, no. I don't know what you think this is, but I'm not that kind of woman. His face paled. That's not what I'm suggesting. God, no, I'm just trying to help. Why? Why do you care? He ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident. I don't know, I just do. That's not good enough. She turned and walked away, her hands shaking. He didn't leave a tip that night. He left $500 and a business card. Helena stood in the bathroom, staring at herself in the cracked mirror. She looked hollowed out, dark circles under her eyes, her skin pale. When had she started looking so old? She was only 28, but she felt ancient. The card was heavy in her pocket. Theodore Raines, CEO, Raines Property Group. She pulled out her phone and Googled him. Her eyes widened. Theodore Raines wasn't just rich. He was a billionaire. His company owned office buildings, apartment complexes, and commercial real estate across 15 states. He had been profiled in Forbes, Business Weekly, and a dozen other publications. 32 years old, self-made, notoriously private, and he was leaving her $500 tips at her run-down diner. She felt dizzy. When she went back out, booth 7 was empty. For 3 days, he didn't come back. Helena told herself she was relieved. She didn't need the money. Except she did need the money desperately, and the absence of those tips meant she was back to counting pennies and deciding between gas for her car and fresh vegetables. On the 4th day, Sophie came home from school crying. "Baby, what happened?" Helena knelt down, wiping tears from her daughter's face. "Emma said we're poor. She said her mom said people like us are why the neighborhood is going bad." Rage, hot and fierce, flooded through Helena. "Emma doesn't know what she's talking about, sweetheart. We're not poor, we have everything we need. But we don't have a lot of things. I don't have the toys other kids have. My coat is from the thrift store." "Hey," Helena cupped Sophie's face, "listen to me. We might not have everything, but we have what matters. We have each other, we have grandma, we have a home and food and love. That's more than a lot of people have." Sophie nodded, but the hurt in her eyes remained. That night at the diner, Helena was pouring coffee for a truck driver when Theo walked in. Relief and anger warred in her chest. He sat at booth 7. She brought him coffee without asking, set it down harder than necessary. "Apple pie, please." He looked tired, dark circles under his own eyes. "Helena, I'm sorry if I offended you. You didn't offend me. You confused me." She slid into the opposite bench, breaking every rule Mel had about fraternizing with customers. "Why are you really doing this?" Theo was quiet for a long moment, his fingers wrapped around the coffee mug. "My mother was a single mom. She worked 3 jobs to keep me and my sister fed. I watched her destroy herself trying to give us a good life. When I was 16, she had a heart attack at work. She survived, but she was never the same." He met Helena's eyes. "When I see you, I see her. I see someone who shouldn't have to work this hard just to survive." The honesty in his voice cracked something in Helena's chest. "I'm sorry about your mother. She's okay now. I take care of her. But I can't go back and help the woman she was 20 years ago. Maybe that's what I'm trying to do with you. I don't know. Maybe it's selfish." "It's not selfish." Helena felt tears prick her eyes and blinked them back. "It's kind, but I can't accept charity." "Then don't think of it as charity. Think of it as one human being helping another. That's literally the definition of charity." He almost smiled. "Work for me then. I need someone to manage one of my residential buildings. It comes with an apartment, full benefits, and a salary that would let you quit your other jobs. You'd be good at it. You're organized, you work hard, you're good with people when they're not trying to give you money." Helena laughed despite herself. "You're persistent. It's how I built my company." He leaned forward. "Let me help you, Helena. Not because I pity you, but because I can, and because everyone deserves a break sometimes." She thought of Sophie's tears, of the electric bill that would be due again soon, of her mother's tired face, of the weight that never left her shoulders. "I need to think about it." "Take all the time you need." He slid the envelope across the table. "Building address and apartment number are in there. Go look at it. If you hate it, we never speak of this again." The apartment was beautiful. Helena stood in the middle of the empty living room, sunlight streaming through clean windows, and felt like crying. 2 bedrooms, both bigger than the single room she shared with Sophie. A kitchen with modern appliances. A bathroom with a tub that wasn't stained. Hardwood floors. Fresh paint. Sophie ran from room to room, shrieking with delight. "Mama, Mama, this would be my room. My own room, maybe, baby, we'll see." Her mother walked through slowly, running her hand along the walls. "This is too good to be true, Helena. I know." "What does he want from you?" "He says nothing. Just to manage the building." Carol turned to her daughter. "And you believe him?" "I don't know what I believe." Helena looked out the window at the tree-lined street below. "But I'm tired, Mom. I'm so tired." Carol pulled her into a hug, and Helena let herself be held like she was a child again. She called the number on the card that evening. Rains. His voice was different on the phone, more businesslike. It made Helena nervous. "Hi, it's Helena, from the diner." His tone changed immediately, warming. "Helena, did you see the apartment?" "Yes, it's lovely. And I want to know what the job actually entails. I'm not qualified to manage a building. I barely graduated high school." "You don't need a degree. You need common sense and people skills. I'll train you on the rest. You'd be handling tenant concerns, coordinating maintenance, making sure the building runs smoothly. I have a whole team that handles the financial and legal aspects. You'd just be the on-site manager." It sounded too easy. "What's the catch?" "No catch." "Well, one catch. You'd have to deal with me stopping by occasionally to check on things." "I think I can handle that." Was she imagining the pleasure in his voice? "So you'll take it?" Helena took a deep breath. "Yes." The move happened fast. Theo had movers pack up her old apartment and transport everything in a single day. Sophie was beside herself with excitement, directing the movers like a tiny general. Helena's mother kept shaking her head in wonder. "This is crazy," Carol said. "Good crazy, but crazy." Helena agreed. Her life felt like it was happening to someone else. Theo arrived as the movers were leaving, carrying a large box. "Housewarming gift. You've done too much already. It's dishes. You can't turn down dishes." It wasn't just dishes. It was a full set of cookware, plates, glasses, and utensils, all of good quality. Helena felt overwhelmed. "Thank you," she managed. Sophie ran up to Theo, looking up at him with wide eyes. "Are you Mama's friend?" "I hope so," he said, crouching down to her level. "What's your name?" "Sophie Ellis. I'm 6 3/4. "That's very specific. I'm Theo Raines. I'm 32 and no quarters." Sophie giggled. Helena felt something warm unfurl in her chest watching them. Over the next few weeks, Helena settled into her new life. The building had 20 units, and most of the tenants were quiet and self-sufficient. She handled a clogged drain, mediated a noise complaint, and organized the building's recycling system. It was easy compared to her old jobs, almost suspiciously so. Theo came by twice a week, always with some excuse about checking on property issues, but Helena suspected he just wanted to see her. They fell into a routine. He'd arrive around 3 after Sophie got home from school, and the three of them would sit in Helena's apartment drinking coffee and talking. "How's the job?" he asked one Thursday, watching Sophie color at the kitchen table. "Good. Almost too good. I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop." "No shoes dropping. You're doing great. Mrs. Chen in 3B told me you fixed her leak and helped her carry up her groceries." Helena shrugged. "She's 85. What was I supposed to do?" "Exactly what you did. See, you're perfect for this." His eyes lingered on her face. "You look better. Less tired. I sleep more than 3 hours a night now. It's amazing what that does. You're also eating better. You've put on a little weight." Helena's hand went self-consciously to her stomach. "Is that a polite way of saying I'm getting fat?" "No, God, no. I just meant you look healthier. More alive." He ran a hand through his hair, flustered. "I'm terrible at compliments, apparently." But she was smiling. Sophie looked up from her drawing. Theo, do you have a wife? Sophie. Helena's face burned. It's okay. Theo turned to Sophie seriously. No, I don't have a wife. Do you think I should get one? Maybe. Then you wouldn't be lonely. Who says I'm lonely? Mama says rich people are usually lonely because money can't buy love. Sophie went back to her coloring like she hadn't just dropped a bomb. Theo's eyes found Helena's. Your mama is very wise. Helena wanted to melt into the floor. Sophie watches too many movies. I think she's right, though. He stood, grabbing his coat. I should go. I have a conference call in an hour. At the door, he paused. Helena, would you like to have dinner with me sometime? Without Sophie and without talking about building maintenance, just the two of us. Her heart hammered. Like a date. Yes, like a date. She should say no. He was her boss, technically. He was a billionaire. They were from completely different worlds. But when she looked at him, she didn't see his money or his company. She saw the man who had sat in a diner eating pie just to make sure she got through her shift. The man who had given her a chance at a better life. The man who made her daughter laugh. Yes, she heard herself say. I'd like that. His smile could have lit up the city. Saturday, I'll pick you up at 7. I'll need to find a babysitter. Already taken care of. I called your mother. She said she'd be delighted. You called my mother. I wanted to make sure I'd done everything right before I asked. He looked almost shy. Was that overstepping? Helena laughed, the sound surprising her. Completely. But it's also kind of sweet. Saturday took forever to arrive. Helena changed outfits 5 times before settling on a simple black dress she had bought years ago and never had occasion to wear. Carol did her makeup, something Helena never bothered with anymore. You look beautiful, her mother said. I look terrified. That too, but mostly beautiful. Carol squeezed her hand. Have fun, honey, you deserve this. Theo arrived exactly at 7, wearing a dark suit that probably cost more than her first car. His eyes widened when he saw her. You look stunning. You clean up pretty well yourself. He took her to a restaurant that didn't have prices on the menu, the kind of place Helena had only seen in movies. She felt out of place until Theo took her hand across the table and said, If you're uncomfortable, we can leave. Go get burgers and fries somewhere. I just wanted to do this right. This is more than right. This is intimidating. The food's not even that good. Tiny portions, lots of foam, everything deconstructed. He leaned in conspiratorially. I usually stop at a drive-thru on the way home. She laughed, and the tension broke. They talked through dinner, real conversation that flowed easily. He told her about building his company from the ground up, working construction jobs to save money for his first property, the risks that had paid off and the ones that hadn't. She told him about Sophie, about the fear and joy of raising a child alone, about her dreams that had been put on hold but not forgotten. What would you do, he asked, if money and time weren't issues? Go back to school, study social work, help other single moms like me. She felt silly saying it out loud. It's probably naive. It's not naive, it's admirable. His hand found hers again. You should do it. Maybe someday. Why not now? You have a stable job, benefits. I could work around your class schedule. Theo, you've already done too much. I haven't done nearly enough. His voice was intense. Let me help you build the life you want, Helena. Not because you need me to, but because I want to be part of it. She looked at their joined hands, his tanned and strong, hers paler and marked with small scars from years of hard work. Why me? You could have anyone. I don't want anyone, I want you. He met her eyes steadily. I've wanted you since that first night at the diner when you told me you didn't need charity. You have this strength, this fierce determination to take care of everyone around you. You're real in a way most people I meet aren't. You make me want to be better. You're already pretty great. Tell that to the board members who think I'm a tyrant. He smiled. I'm serious, though. I know this is fast. I know we're still getting to know each other. But I'd like to keep doing this. Seeing you, talking to you, being part of your life. If you'll let me." Helena thought about all the reasons she should be cautious. About the differences between them, about the risks, about Sophie, and what it would mean to let someone into their carefully constructed world. But she also thought about how she felt when he was around, lighter, happier, like maybe she could want things for herself again. "I'd like that too," she said softly. He drove her home, walked her to her door like they were teenagers. Carol had texted that Sophie was asleep and she'd let herself out the back way. They stood in the hallway, suddenly awkward. "I had a really nice time," Helena said. "Me too." He reached up, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "Can I kiss you?" she nodded, not trusting her voice. The kiss was gentle, tentative, his lips soft against hers. It had been so long since anyone had kissed her that Helena had almost forgotten how it felt. When they broke apart, they were both smiling. "Good night, Helena." "Good night, Theo." She floated into her apartment, feeling like a girl again instead of a tired single mother. Carol's text made her laugh. "He's a keeper. Don't mess this up." The next few months passed in a blur of happiness. Theo became a constant presence in their lives, showing up for Sunday dinners, taking Sophie to the park, fixing the dripping faucet in Helena's bathroom. He fit into their world so seamlessly that it sometimes scared Helena how much she had come to depend on him. She enrolled in community college for the spring semester, starting with 2 classes while working and taking care of Sophie. It was exhausting in a different way than before, but this exhaustion came with purpose and hope. Theo's family was another story. His mother, Patricia, was warm and welcoming when they met, pulling Helena into a hug and whispering, "Thank you for making my son smile again." His sister, Rebecca, was more reserved but thawed when she saw how Sophie adored Theo. "He's good with her," Rebecca said, watching Theo and Sophie build a blanket fort. "I haven't seen him this relaxed in years." "He's good with everyone," Helena replied. "Not everyone, believe me. Theodore can be difficult when he wants to be, but you bring out his softer side." The comment stayed with Helena. She saw glimpses of that other Theodore sometimes, the CEO who made million-dollar decisions and intimidated boardrooms full of executives. It was strange to reconcile that man with the one who sat on her floor playing dolls with her 6-year-old daughter. One evening in December, Theo asked if he could take her somewhere special. He picked her up in his car, driving out of the city into the countryside. Snow had started to fall, light flakes catching in the headlights. "Where are we going?" Helena asked. "You'll see." They pulled up to a large house, modern and beautiful, surrounded by trees. Lights glowed from inside. "What is this?" "My home." He turned to her. "I wanted you to see where I live, who I am outside of the city and the office and your apartment." The house was stunning but surprisingly warm. The furniture was comfortable, the kitchen clearly used, photos of his family scattered throughout. It felt like a home, not a showplace. "This is beautiful," Helena said, running her hand along the kitchen counter. "I had it built 3 years ago. It was supposed to be my escape from the city, but I'm never here." He came up behind her. "It's felt empty, until now." She turned to face him. "Theo, I love you." The words tumbled out. "I know it's soon, and I know we're still figuring this out, but I love you, Helena. I love your strength and your kindness and the way you sing when you cook. I love how you are with Sophie, how you take care of everyone around you. I love that you challenge me and keep me honest. I just love you." Tears spilled down Helena's cheeks. "I love you too. I've been trying not to, trying to be practical and cautious, but I can't help it. I love you." He kissed her, deep and thorough, and Helena felt like she was falling and flying at the same time. They made love in his bed, taking their time, learning each other. Afterward, lying in his arms, Helena felt a peace she had never experienced before. This was what people meant when they talked about finding your person, she thought. This feeling of rightness, of coming home. "Move in with me," Theo said into the darkness. "You and Sophie. Make this house feel like a home." "That's a big step. I know. But I'm ready for big steps if you are." Helena thought about it. About Sophie having her own room, a yard to play in, space to grow. About waking up next to Theo every morning instead of counting the days until she saw him again. About building a life together instead of keeping parts of themselves separate. "Can we do it slowly? Maybe stay here on weekends first. Let Sophie adjust. Whatever you need. I'm not going anywhere." Christmas was magical that year. They spent it at Theo's house, a real tree filling the living room with pine scent, presents piled underneath. Sophie's face when she saw the bicycle Theo had gotten her was something Helena would treasure forever. "This is the best Christmas ever," Sophie declared, and Helena's heart swelled. Later, when Sophie was asleep and the house was quiet, Theo pulled Helena onto the couch. "I have one more present for you. Theo, you've done too much already. It's not a thing, it's a question." He took her hand, his thumb brushing over her knuckles. "I know we've only been together for a few months. I know there's still so much we're learning about each other, but I also know that I want to spend my life with you. I want to wake up next to you every morning and come home to you every night. I want to be there for Sophie as she grows up, if you'll let me. I want to build a family with you." He pulled out a small box, and Helena's breath caught. "Helena Ellis, will you marry me?" The ring was beautiful, a simple diamond that caught the light, but Helena barely saw it through her tears. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, yes, yes." He slid the ring onto her finger and they kissed until they were breathless with joy. They told Sophie in the morning. She looked at the ring, then at Theo, then launched herself at him. "Does this mean you're going to be my daddy?" Theo caught her, his own eyes wet. "If that's okay with you." "That's very okay with me." Helena watched them, her heart so full it hurt. They married in the spring, a small ceremony in Theo's backyard with close family and friends. Helena wore a simple white dress, flowers in her hair, and felt more beautiful than she ever had. Sophie was the flower girl, taking her job very seriously, and Carol cried through the entire ceremony. When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, and Theo kissed her, Helena thought about that night in the diner when a stranger had left her $100 tip. How she had never imagined it would lead to this, to love, to family, to a future brighter than any she had dared to dream. Life settled into a new rhythm. Helena continued her classes, eventually graduating with her bachelor's degree in social work. Theo was there for every milestone, cheering louder than anyone. She started working part-time at a nonprofit that helped single mothers, using her own experience to guide others. The work was fulfilling in a way nothing else had been. Sophie thrived, growing into a confident, kind child who called Theo Dad without hesitation. Watching them together building things, reading stories, just talking about their days filled Helena with gratitude that never faded. 2 years after their wedding, Helena found out she was pregnant. She told Theo over dinner, sliding the positive test across the table. His face went through a dozen emotions before landing on pure joy. "We're having a baby. We're having a baby." Sophie was equally excited, already planning what she would teach her little brother or sister. The pregnancy was easier than Helena's first had been, probably because she wasn't working 3 jobs and drowning in stress. Theo was attentive without being overbearing, making sure she rested and ate well but never treating her like she was fragile. Their son, Thomas, was born on a sunny October morning. He had Theo's gray eyes and a healthy set of lungs. Sophie held him carefully, tears streaming down her 8-year-old face. "He's perfect, Mama. He really is." Theo sat on the hospital bed next to Helena, his arm around her, looking at his son with wonder. "Thank you," he said quietly. "For what? For this. For all of it. For giving me a family, for loving me. Thank you for finding me." Helena leaned her head on his shoulder. "Thank you for seeing me when I felt invisible." The years that followed were full of noise and chaos and love. Sophie started middle school, all attitude and opinions. Thomas learned to walk, then run, then talk nonstop. Helena's nonprofit grew, helping hundreds of women find their footing. Theo's company continued to thrive, but he made sure to be home for dinners and bedtimes, prioritizing family over everything else. Sometimes Helena would stand in the kitchen of their home, listening to her children laugh and her husband sing off-key in the shower, and marvel at how her life had changed. She thought about the woman she had been, exhausted, hopeless, barely surviving, and hardly recognized her. One evening when Thomas was 3 and Sophie was 11, the family was having dinner when Sophie asked, "Dad, how did you and Mom meet?" Theo and Helena exchanged glances, both smiling. "I used to work at a diner," Helena said, "and your dad came in one night and ordered pie. And I saw your mom and knew she was special," Theo added. "That's it, that's the whole story." Sophie looked disappointed. "The whole story is much longer," Helena said, "but that's where it started. Sometimes the best things in life begin with something simple like a piece of pie." "And a good tip," Theo added with a grin. Helena laughed, reaching across the table to take his hand. "Yes, and a very good tip." Later that night, after the kids were asleep, Helena and Theo sat on their back porch, watching stars emerge in the darkening sky. "Do you ever miss it?" Theo asked. "Your old life, your independence, doing everything on your own." "Not even a little bit." Helena turned to him. "I was surviving, not living. You taught me the difference. You taught me, too, about what really matters, about being present, about love that isn't conditional or transactional." He pulled her closer. "I was successful, but I was empty. You filled all those spaces I didn't even know were vacant." They sat in comfortable silence, the kind that came from years of knowing each other deeply. A breeze rustled the trees, bringing the scent of jasmine from Helena's garden. "I was thinking," Helena said eventually, "we should do something special for our 5th anniversary next month. What did you have in mind?" "I want to go back to Mel's diner, if it's still there." Theo looked at her, surprised. "Really? Really?" "I want to sit in booth 7 and order coffee and apple pie. I want to remember where we started." "That's perfect." He kissed her temple. "We'll make it a date." The diner was still there, though Mel had retired and sold it to his nephew. The booths were the same, the coffee just as mediocre, the pie just as good. They slid into booth 7, and Helena felt a wave of nostalgia. "This is surreal," she said, looking around. "Being here with you as your wife instead of as the tired waitress who thought you were crazy." "You did think I was crazy, didn't you?" "Completely. Who tips $100 for coffee and pie? Someone who recognized something worth investing in." He reached across the table, taking both her hands. "Best investment I ever made." "I'm not an investment. I'm a person." "You're my person. That's the point." They ordered their old standby coffee and apple pie and talked about everything and nothing. About Sophie's upcoming soccer tournament and Thomas's obsession with dinosaurs. About Helena's work and Theo's latest property acquisition. About the vacation they wanted to take next summer and whether they should get a dog. When the check came, Theo left a $200 tip. "Some habits die hard," he said with a shrug. The young waitress, a tired-looking woman in her 20s, stared at the money with wide eyes. Helena knew that look. She had worn it herself 5 years ago. "Excuse me," Helena called to her. "That's really for you. He meant to leave it." "But that's too much. Your bill was only $15. Helena smiled gently. Sometimes people come into our lives and change everything with a single gesture. Accept the gift. You never know where it might lead. The waitress clutched the money, tears forming. Thank you. You have no idea what this means. I think I do, Helena said. Outside, walking to their car hand in hand, Theo said, You're going to make me cry. You already made me cry 5 years ago in this parking lot. When you chased me down to give back the money, when you told me about your mother, when you saw me, really saw me. She stopped, turning to face him fully. When you gave me hope. He cupped her face in his hands. You gave me purpose. Everything I built, all the money I made, none of it meant anything until I had someone to share it with. You and Sophie and Thomas, you're my reason for everything now. We love you too. Helena kissed him softly. My stranger who became my everything. Your billionaire who returns every day, he murmured against her lips. They drove home together to their children and their life, to the future they were building one day at a time. It wasn't always perfect. They argued about money sometimes, about how much to spoil the kids, about work-life balance. But they always came back to each other, to the love that had grown from a chance meeting in a rundown diner. Years later, when Sophie was graduating high school with a full scholarship to study medicine, and Thomas was starting kindergarten, Helena reflected on the journey. She had her master's degree now, running her own foundation that provided housing and job training for single mothers. Theo had shifted much of his business responsibility to trusted partners, so he could focus more on family and philanthropy. Together, they had created something bigger than themselves. At Sophie's graduation party, surrounded by family and friends, Carol pulled Helena aside. I'm so proud of you, her mother said. Look at everything you've built. We built it together. You, me, Theo, everyone who helped along the way. You were always strong enough to do it alone, but I'm glad you didn't have to. Helena hugged her mother tightly. Me too. That night, lying in bed next to Theo, Helena thought about the girl she had been terrified, alone, working herself to the bone just to survive. She thought about the moment her life had pivoted, when a stranger had seen her exhaustion and decided to do something about it. Not to save her because she hadn't needed saving, but to walk beside her, to share her burdens, to love her through the hard parts. What are you thinking about? Theo asked sleepily. How lucky I am, how lucky we are. Luck had nothing to do with it. This was meant to be. You really believe that? I really believe that. He pulled her closer, his warmth surrounding her. From the moment I walked into that diner and saw you, I knew you were going to change my life. I just didn't know how completely. Helena closed her eyes, contentment washing over her. Outside, the world continued on, people working, struggling, hoping for their own miracles. But here in this room, in this life they had built together, everything was exactly as it should be. The next morning, Helena woke early, as was her habit, and went downstairs. The house was quiet, everyone still sleeping. She made coffee and stood by the kitchen window, watching the sun rise over their property. The garden she had planted was blooming, the swing set Theo had built swaying slightly in the breeze. This was her life now, not just survival but true living. She heard footsteps and turned to see Theo, hair mussed from sleep, Thomas on his hip. Morning, he said, kissing her cheek. Someone wanted his mama. Helena took their son, breathing in his little boy scent. Good morning, baby. Not baby, Thomas protested. Big boy. You'll always be my baby, she said, making him giggle. Theo poured himself coffee, leaning against the counter. What's the plan for today? Sophie has practice at noon. I have a meeting at the foundation at 3, normal chaos. My favorite kind. He moved closer, wrapping his free arm around both of them. I love our normal chaos. Helena leaned into him, her little family complete. So do I. The years continued to unfold, bringing challenges and triumphs in equal measure. When the economy crashed and Theo's company faced difficult times, Helena was there, reminding him of his strength and resilience. When Helena's mother got sick, Theo cleared his schedule to help care for her, never complaining, always steady. They weathered storms together, Sophie's rebellious teenage years, Thomas's learning difficulties that required extra tutoring and patience, the usual ups and downs of marriage and family. But their foundation was solid, built on mutual respect and genuine love. On their 10th anniversary, Theo surprised Helena with a trip back to her old neighborhood. The building where she had lived with Sophie, the grocery store where she had worked, even Mel's diner. "Why are we here?" Helena asked, confused. "Because I wanted you to see how far you've come. Not just in circumstances, but in yourself." He took her hand. "You were amazing then, working yourself to exhaustion for your daughter, but watching you grow into who you are now, confident and fulfilled and helping so many others, that's been the privilege of my life." Helena felt tears sting her eyes. "You helped me become this person. No, I just gave you the space to become who you always were. You did the work." They stood outside her old building, looking up at the 4th-floor window. A curtain moved, and Helena saw a young woman holding a baby, looking tired but determined. "That was me," Helena whispered. "That was you, and look at you now." They drove to the foundation office, where Helena showed Theo the latest numbers. They had helped over 1,000 women in the past 5 years, providing housing, job training, childcare assistance, and education support. "This is your legacy," Theo said, looking at the photos of smiling women and children that covered one wall. "Our legacy," Helena corrected. "None of this would exist without you. I just wrote checks. You did everything else." It wasn't true, not really. Theo was involved in every aspect, using his business expertise to help the foundation grow sustainably, but he always deflected credit, preferring to stay in the background. That night at the restaurant where he had taken her on their first date, Theo gave her a gift, more presents. "You spoil me. Open it." Inside the box was a key. "What's this?" "The key to a new building. Downtown near your foundation office. I bought it last month. The plan is to convert it into transitional housing for women in your program. 30 apartments, fully furnished, with a child care facility on the 1st floor and job training spaces on the 2nd. It's yours to run however you see fit." Helena couldn't speak. The magnitude of the gift, of what it would mean for the women she served, overwhelmed her. "Theo, this is too much. It's not enough. It'll never be enough." He took her hands. "You've given me everything that matters. Let me give you this." "We're partners," she managed through tears. "Equal partners, always." The building opened a year later, to much fanfare and media attention. Helena was interviewed by local news, national publications, even a morning talk show. She spoke passionately about the need for comprehensive support for single mothers, about how a stable home was the foundation for everything else. During one interview, the host asked, "What would you say to your younger self, that single mom working 3 jobs?" Helena thought carefully. "I'd tell her that it gets better. That asking for help isn't weakness, it's wisdom. That love can come when you least expect it, from the most unexpected places, and that she's stronger than she knows, but she doesn't have to do everything alone. Your husband has been incredibly supportive of your work. He's my partner in every way. We built this together." After the interview, Theo was waiting in the green room. "You were perfect. I was nervous. You were passionate and articulate and inspiring." He pulled her close. "I'm so proud of you." Sophie, now in medical school, called that evening. "Mom, I just saw your interview. You're famous." "Hardly famous, sweetheart. You're famous to me and to all those women you help. What you're doing matters, Mom. It really matters." After they hung up, Helena sat quietly, processing everything, from waitress to social worker to foundation director to housing provider. The journey had been long and often difficult, but worth every step. Thomas, now 10 and obsessed with building things, was in the garage with Theo, working on some project involving wood and nails. Their laughter drifted through the house, and Helena smiled. This was success. Not the money or the media attention or even the foundation, as proud as she was of it. Success was the sound of her husband and son laughing together. It was her daughter pursuing her dreams with confidence. It was knowing that she had created a safe, loving home where everyone could flourish. The foundation continued to grow, helping more women each year. Helena hired staff, many of them women who had gone through the program themselves. They understood the struggle, the fear, the exhaustion in a way outsiders couldn't. One day, a young woman came to Helena's office. She looked familiar, but Helena couldn't place her. "You probably don't remember me," the woman said. "But 5 years ago I was working at Mel's Diner. You and your husband came in for your anniversary and he left me a $200 tip. You told me to accept the gift, that I never knew where it might lead." Recognition dawned. "I remember. That money let me catch up on rent. It gave me breathing room to think. I started taking night classes, got a better job, applied to your foundation's housing program 3 years ago. Now I'm graduating with my nursing degree and I have a job lined up at the hospital." She wiped tears from her eyes. "I wanted to thank you. That kindness, that one moment, it changed my life." Helena hugged her tightly. "You changed your own life, you did the work. But you gave me hope, just like someone must have given it to you once." After she left, Helena called Theo. "Remember the waitress from our anniversary dinner at Mel's?" Vaguely. "Why?" Helena told him the story, her voice breaking. "We made a difference, you made a difference." "We made a difference," he corrected gently. "Together." That night, lying in bed, Helena traced patterns on Theo's chest. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you hadn't stopped at that diner all the time? I'd probably still be working 80-hour weeks, eating takeout, wondering why success felt so hollow. And I'd still be working 3 jobs, barely surviving, thinking that was all life had to offer. Fate brought us together. Or good pie," Helena said, making him laugh. "Definitely the pie." They lay in comfortable silence, fingers intertwined. "I love you," Helena said, "more than I thought it was possible to love someone. The feeling is entirely mutual." He kissed her softly. "Thank you for taking a chance on me. Thank you for seeing me when I felt invisible." As Helena drifted off to sleep, she thought about all the women who felt invisible right now, working themselves to exhaustion, wondering if life would ever get easier. She thought about the foundation, the housing, the childcare, the job training, about all the small kindnesses that could snowball into life-changing momentum. Tomorrow, she would help more women find their footing. But tonight, she was simply grateful for her own journey, for the stranger who had become her everything, for the family they had built together, the billionaire who had returned every day until he became her forever. Years passed in the way they do when life is full quickly but richly. Sophie became a doctor, specializing in pediatrics, her natural warmth making her perfect for working with children. Thomas followed his father into business, but with his own twist, focusing on sustainable development and affordable housing. Both children had learned from their parents the importance of using success to help others. Helena and Theo grew older together gracefully, their love deepening with each passing year. They became grandparents when Sophie had twins, and watching Theo hold his grandchildren for the first time, Helena fell in love with him all over again. The foundation became Helena's lasting legacy, continuing long after she stepped back from daily operations. The building Theo had given her was now one of 5 across the city, each providing comprehensive support for single mothers trying to build better lives. On their 25th anniversary, they returned once more to Mel's Diner. It had changed ownership twice more, but Booth 7 was still there. "Think we'll ever stop coming back here?" Helena asked, sliding into the familiar seat. "Never. This is where our story began." They were grayer now, lines etched around their eyes and mouths, but when they looked at each other, they saw the same people they had been that first night, him searching for meaning, her searching for hope. "I'd do it all again," Helena said. "Every sleepless night, every struggle, every moment of doubt. Because it led me here to you, to this life. Even the part where you thought I was crazy, especially that part," she laughed. "You were crazy. Wonderfully, beautifully crazy." The waitress brought their coffee and pie, and Theo left his customary generous tip. Some traditions were worth keeping. Walking to their car, Helena paused, looking back at the diner. "What is it?" Theo asked. "I was just thinking about that night. How close I came to refusing your help. How different everything would be if I had. But you didn't refuse. You took a chance. We both took a chance." He wrapped his arm around her, and they stood together in the parking lot where she had once chased him down, angry and proud. Where he had first told her about his mother, breaking down the walls between them. "Best chance I ever took," Theo said. "Mine too." They drove home through the city they both loved, past the foundation offices, past the housing buildings, past the parks where their children had played and their grandchildren now played, past the grocery store where Helena had once worked, now closed and replaced by something else, past the markers of their shared history. Their house was filled with family when they arrived: Sophie and her husband and the twins, Thomas and his girlfriend, Carol now in her 80s but still sharp as ever. Everyone had gathered for the anniversary celebration. Speech. Thomas called and everyone joined in. Theo pulled Helena close and they faced their family. 25 years ago, Theo began, I walked into a diner looking for coffee and pie. I found my entire future instead. And I was working myself to exhaustion, Helena continued, thinking I had to do everything alone. He showed me that accepting help wasn't weakness, it was wisdom. We built this together, they said in unison, having planned this moment. This family, this life, this love. It started with a tip, but it became everything. The family applauded, and Helena felt tears slip down her cheeks. Happy tears, grateful tears, tears of a woman who had survived and thrived and found love when she wasn't even looking for it. Later, after everyone had gone home and the house was quiet again, Helena and Theo sat on their back porch under the stars. You think we'll have another 25 years? Helena asked. At least, maybe 50 more. That's ambitious. I'm an ambitious man. He squeezed her hand. But however long we have, I want to spend every moment of it with you. You're stuck with me now. Best place to be stuck. They sat in silence, watching the stars wheel overhead, the night air cool and sweet. Inside, the house held the echoes of laughter and love, of a family gathered and grateful. Outside, the world continued on, full of people searching for connection, for purpose, for hope. And somewhere in that world, a tired single mother was working through the night, unaware that her life could change in an instant. That kindness could come from unexpected places. That love could find you even when you weren't looking. Helena sent out a silent wish to that woman wherever she was. Hold on, keep fighting, stay open to possibility. Your stranger might be just around the corner, ready to see you, really see you, and change everything. Theo's hand tightened on hers, and Helena leaned her head on his shoulder, feeling the steady beat of his heart. This was her happily ever after, earned through struggle and strengthened by love. Not perfect, but real. Not easy, but worth it. exactly as it should be. The story that began with $100 tip in a rundown diner had become a lifetime of love, family, and purpose. The billionaire who had returned every day had become the husband who stayed forever. And the single mother who had been too proud to accept charity had become the woman who spent her life helping others find their own paths to hope. Together, they had built something beautiful. Together, they had come home. And in the quiet of that perfect night, surrounded by the life they had created, Helena Ellis Raines knew with absolute certainty that she was exactly where she was meant to be, with exactly who she was meant to be with, doing exactly what she was meant to do. The beginning had been chance. The middle had been choice. The ending was forever. Their love story, started by a generous tip and a stubborn waitress, had bloomed into something neither of them could have imagined that first night. But isn't that how the best love stories go? They start with a spark, a moment, a gesture, a look, and if you're brave enough to fan that spark into flame, it can light up your entire life. Theo kissed her temple and Helena closed her eyes, breathing in this moment, this life, this love. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and new joys. But tonight, everything was perfect. Just a woman and a man who had found each other in the darkness and chosen to walk into the light together, hand in hand, heart to heart, for all the days they were given. Forever, starting from a single night in a diner, when a billionaire left a generous tip, and a single mother's life changed forever.